Here's your wrestling news for July 16th, 2022. And we're kicking off with Smackdown, which saw a championship contenders match between women's champion Liv Morgan and Natalya. Typically, these matches see the champion lose so that the challenger can get a title match in the future, but that wasn't the case this time around. Morgan beat Natalya decisively, and the story being told is that while Ronda Rousey is more skilled, nobody wants the title more than Liv. It's a breath of fresh air to see her character grow and develop, and a lengthy title reign would do wonders for Morgan's career. As for SummerSlam, it probably won't be a triple threat as some had predicted, as Natalya will now have to go to the back of the line. Smackdown once again saw a match between Drew McIntyre and Sheamus be promised, and yet again, the Celtic Warrior avoided the bout. Last week, Sheamus joked about getting COVID and had Butch fight in his place, while this week, it was Ridge Holland who did his dirty work. Holland couldn't take down the two-time former WWE champion, and it's clear WWE are doing what they can to extend this feud. While seeing Sheamus avoid the match may seem repetitive, it does mean that the two are on a collision course for SummerSlam in a match that's likely to deliver. SmackDown also saw Pat McAfee on the show, and the former NFL punter had something very interesting to say about ratings. Taking shots at his SummerSlam opponent Happy Corbin, McAfee referred to the former King of the Ring as douchebag Corbin, a very non-PG insult, and quickly added, "This ain't TV-14 yet." This was of course in reference to Raw's impending change from PG to TV-14, and while there's been no word on SmackDown following suit, Pat McAfee is ready to use much stronger language. Now it's been over 6 years since The Rock last had an official match with WWE, defeating Eric Rowan in seconds at WrestleMania 32. As one of the biggest names in entertainment with a huge fan base, it's no wonder why WWE are always trying to bring him back, and a return is something the Brahma Bull would like as well. Speaking to Entertainment Tonight, The Rock made it clear he's very much on board with a return to the ring. Fans and WWE are hoping to see The Rock back at WrestleMania 39 to face Roman Reigns, a match that has been teased for years. The first quarter of Rock's movie filming schedule in 2023 has been left blank, which could be a sign that he is committing to a WWE return, but only time will tell. Raw news now as Elias returned to the Red Brand on the June 20th episode and shared a segment with his brother Ezekiel. Fans haven't seen Elias since, but it turns out that he was booked for a segment on this week's episode. Sean Ross Sapp reports that the early plan for Raw was to feature Elias, but obviously that didn't make it to TV. There's no word on why the Elias segment was pulled, as his brother Zeke instead teamed with AJ Styles to face The Miz and Ciampa, but not every plan for the 3-hour show made it to air. Over to AEW now, as the company has been plagued with injuries, with Kenny Omega, Bryan Danielson, and world champion CM Punk all on the shelf. It was on this week's AEW Dynamite that Matt Jackson suffered an injury, and now yet another big name has been revealed to be hurt. On Twitter, Tony Khan revealed that Andrade El Idolo is injured, which is why he hasn't wrestled in 3 weeks. Andrade's most recent match to date saw him defeat Rey Fenix on the June 22nd edition of AEW Rampage, and with no window as to when he'll be back, the All Elite promotion will have to operate without yet another of its big stars. In 2 weeks, WWE will head to Nashville to host their annual Summerslam, and we'll see a huge, undisputed WWE Tag Team title match. On July 30th, the Street Profits will look to end the legendary reign of the Usos, and now that match has gotten another star. During SmackDown, it was confirmed that the match will have a special referee, and that person will be none other than Double J, Jeff Jarrett. Jarrett's involvement comes after the referee for the two teams' match at Money in the Bank made a mistake, allowing the Usos to retain the titles. We are not quite sure about the logic of having someone who's not a referee officiate a match if you're trying to avoid unprofessional mistakes. Whatever the case, Double J will be part of SummerSlam, and the former TNA World Champion is no stranger to appearing in Nashville, Tennessee. Now, Vince McMahon is under investigation right now due to allegedly inappropriate behavior with female employees, but that's not the only issue the ex-chairman has been facing. For over a year now, McMahon has been dealing with a lawsuit by ex-XFL Commissioner Oliver Luck, who alleges that he was wrongfully terminated before the league folded in 2020. This led to a countersuit, with McMahon saying Luck violated the league's policy against hiring players with off-field controversies, but now the case has officially been dismissed. The two sides motioned to settle their multi-million-dollar lawsuit on June 20th, and PW Insider reports that the judge officially dismissed on June 29th. With this suit over, McMahon can go back to focusing on the investigation into him and the several investigations into WWE, and while that is hardly ideal, at least the ex-WWE CEO has one less thing to worry about. Today marks 2 months to the day that Sasha Banks and Naomi walked out of the May 16th Raw, and WWE has done all they can to distance themselves from the pair. WWE has suspended them, stripped them of the women's tag titles, and reportedly already released Banks, but the former champions have now been mentioned once more. In a fan survey, fans were asked to rate various superstars, and while this isn't unusual, fans were surprised to see Banks and Naomi among that list. There's no sign of either woman returning to TV, but it was certainly interesting to see that WWE wants the opinion of fans when it comes to Sasha Banks and Naomi. Now, Kenny King is an established name in wrestling, but recently, the Honor No More member went through something no one should have to. On Twitter, King expressed his frustration at a situation where his 15-year-old daughter was harassed by law enforcement. At Las Vegas Airport, King's daughter Mackenzie was detained due to mistaken identity, but the officers did not attempt to identify her or himself before grabbing her and forcing her arms behind her back. No one from American Airlines attempted to identify Mackenzie, and this went on for minutes before police realized they had the wrong person. The only reason Mackenzie was detained was because she, like the suspect, is light-skinned, and it's clear that law enforcement did not act professionally in their investigation. Earlier this week, we reported that Io Shirai has not signed a new deal with WWE, and unless she does, she could finish with the promotion for good in a matter of weeks. Shirai has reportedly expressed plans to return to Japan where her family are and work for Stardom, but that's not the only future the former NXT Women's Champion can see. In the Wrestling Observer newsletter, it's noted that Shirai has said she will consider re-signing with WWE if she can get a deal on the main roster. While many popular NXT superstars have struggled with a main roster call-up, Shirai is ready to make the move, and having her on Raw and Smackdown may be WWE's only hope to keep the talented superstar around. On the latest AEW Dynamite, Mac Jackson suffered a stinger mere minutes into the match, but we have some good news about his condition now. In the latest Wrestling Observer newsletter, it was said that Jackson was feeling much better the next day, a positive sign after suffering the injury to the nerves in his neck. Jackson did wrestle the rest of the match, but was very cautious when taking bumps, as losing the AEW World Tag Team titles was not the worst thing to happen to the Young Bucks this week. And we're ending with Cody Rhodes, who suffered a torn pectoral last month, and WWE has estimated that he will be out of action for 9 months. During a recent appearance on Busted Open Radio, Cody said that the doctors aren't willing to give him a timeline for when he'll be healed, believing that Rhodes will just ignore it and return far earlier. WWE may have said 9 months, but those outside the company have said Cody could be back in time for the Royal Rumble, as the American Nightmare is eager to get back in the ring. Well guys, that's our news for today. Please share your comments below. Also hit the like button, subscribe to our channel, and hit the bell icon to receive all notifications. And as always, thanks for watching.